think you're going to make any money buying something on eBay and then trying to sell it on vintage. No, it's just not going to happen. No. So I think if you want to use vintage clothing as an investment, then maybe do a lot of research.
Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Collectibles House Podcast. I'm Jordan, your host. I'm joined by my wife, Nira. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
We've finally sat down for a bit and got a podcast under our belt together.
Yes.
Really good. We had Elena Jackson on, really interesting, talking about her, experience with auction houses, her past. She opened up a secondhand store that now has flourished into quite an impressive place down in Salisbury. She's been doing this for sort of 40, 45 years, giving an insight into, what she does day to day, tricks of the trade, from our point of view and my point of view in particular. I love secondhand clothes. I love the attachment to that stuff. And obviously at the moment, it's very popular. So we do go to charity shops, don't we, from time to time. But it's good. It's insightful and gave us some food for thought on where to get started.
And encouraged you just to visit way more in charity shops.
For sure.
To find these gems.
Definitely. Amazing. Yeah. But yeah, it's really insightful. I think you guys are in for a real treat. She's going to give you some tips on what to buy, what to look out for. And yeah, you're in for a really good episode. So join us. We're joined by Elena Jackson today. How you doing?
Hello, hi.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
All the way from
Salisbury today, yeah. But straight through on the train, so it's a lovely journey, yeah.
Non-stop.
That's good.
Amazing. Perfect. I just want to give us an intro about, what you do. I know you know Mr. Tom Doomer.
I do know Tom Doomer, yes.
Remember that?
He's my good friend as well. I share an office with Tom, yes.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Amazing. And that's from work?
Yes, we work for Eubanks, the auction house in Surrey. Surrey's premier auction house. So, yes.
And you've been there for a couple of years?
3 years now, yeah. I'm part of what I like to call the popular culture team at Eubanks. So we do...
we couldn't guess by the way you're dressed.
Well, I do.
Very good dress today. Really
Thank you.
Nice.
I do the fashion auctions. Tom does comics. We also do game consoles and as well as traditional stuff like stamps and silver and jewellery. But the popular culture thing is movie posters and Pokemon cards, all that kind of thing. So it's what the younger generation like.
Nice. Yeah, I've been good to Pokemon, but we're not here to talk about Pokemon.
No,
which is another topic. But your day to day, obviously your background, you've been doing this for 40 years, 45 years?
I can't believe, because it seems like yesterday I was at jumble sales when I was 14 or 15.
Yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah, that's how it started. Yeah, my mum was a single parent, 3 kids to support, not a lot of money for clothing, but she had been a model. She was actually Miss Wales in the 1950s, so she was a huge influence on me. Buying clothing and stuff. And of course, not a lot of pocket money. And I didn't really like the fashion in the 80s anyway. It didn't suit me. I liked 60s fashion because it suited my body shape. And 60s stuff was what was available in there weren't so many charity shops then, but at jumble sales and boot sales, and the 60s fashion was what was available. Yeah. So
there's another developed the name. It used to be jumble sale.
Yeah.
Now it's charity shop. Now it's like a thrift store.
Yes.
Now it's I don't know.
Yeah, it's evolved.
It's evolved, isn't it?
Well, it's not jumble, is it? It's because that kind of makes you think it's junk, and there's some real treasures to find at
That's how it
jumble
sort of
sale.
started out, do you think? The whole notion of second-hand sales? That was the concept, wasn't it?
Really? I think originally it was, people who didn't have a lot of money for clothing that would go and buy stuff at jumble sales. So that's how it started. Certainly for me, yeah.
Amazing.
And I can remember going to clubs and things when I was 18, 19, wearing a Audrey Hepburn style 60s like fitted dress, and all my friends are in this bra skirts and glitter and leg warmers and stuff, and and I thought they were all in that group and there was me on my own, and I'm thinking I don't want to be one of the crowd that follows fashion. I want to wear what I want to wear. So.
Nice. Good for you. Yeah. Carbonating your own identity.
Yeah.
Nice. So you said your mother was Miss Wales. You grew up in Wales? Or that was,
No, she grew up in Wales, but my father was in the forces, so we lived all over the world. I did as a kid. And I went to boarding school. I won a scholarship to go to boarding school, but there wasn't a lot of money in the family. So again, I was buying my clothes from charity shops and jumble sales. So that's where it all started. Yeah, 45 years ago. That's so scary.
Amazing. Wow.
So you started off,
going through thrift stores, jumble sales, and that, you wanted to carve out your semi-owned identity. That was the sort of reason you did that?
Yeah. I was a bit of a rebel. Yeah. A bit of a punk back in the day. Yeah. Tried everything. My hair's been every colour, white, black, blue, everything.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Nice. Just trying to be individual. Yeah. Didn't want to be one of the crowd.
Non-conformist.
Non-conformist.
It was probably very challenging doing it in the 60s, 70s.
More 80s. Not 80s. Old, but yeah, it was. Yeah. I mean, being part of a tribe in a boarding school, everyone just knuckled down and got on with their work, and I questioned everything and wanted answers, and
very cool.
And so fashion really wasn't a career path for me at that stage. Girls of that age, back in the 80s, we were pushed into being secretaries or nurses. It was still very old-fashioned, and fashion really wasn't an option. So I didn't go down the fashion route as a career originally. I ended up joining the civil service, and I was a tax inspector, VAT inspector. Not very popular.
You heard that? Yeah, that's quite a jump, huh? Well, that's quite a thing to start.
Well, it was, but I was so bored. But it was good training for me, because it was good training with a view to opening my own business, because knowing about VAT is good knowledge.
Definitely.
But also the training, the fact that I was so mind-numbingly bored at work, and I just watched the clock go so slowly. I'm thinking there's got to be more to life than this. So I did that for a while, had my children, and then I rethought my career path. What do I really want to do? And my passion was clothing and shopping, and I'm thinking, how can I make a career from buying clothes or selling clothes? And so I immediately thought charity retail, which was just in its infancy then, sort of late 80s, early 90s. Excuse me. And I went for an interview as a shop manager for cancer research. Luckily, I think I must have bored the guy that interviewed me to death, because he gave me the job with no experience, nice. No knowledge, no qualifications. But I think he could see this passion that I had.
Yeah.
And I was saying, as a shopper, I'm going into a charity shop, and it's run by elderly lady volunteers mostly, and all credit to them for giving up their time, but they might not necessarily know an awful lot about fashion and how to price things and stuff. And I said to him, they perhaps need some training. The volunteers need some training on, how to price things, or the managers should do it. Anyway, so I went into cancer research, managing one shop in Salisbury. Ended up being the area manager for them. Just transformed all the shops. We weren't selling cheap stuff. We were selling more high-end items. I trained the volunteers on what to look out for.
So because of your charity shops today are expensive.
Yes. Very pioneering, though.
Because it is pioneering.
Even when we go, we look at, you go into a charity shop nowadays, and you see, okay, they actually know what they're talking about now.
They do. It's big. 20, it's proper business now. Yeah. I used to get customers coming in and saying, "Why is this jumper £5? This is a charity. It should be £2." And I said, it's a business that supports a charity. We're running this as a business. We have costs, it still costs to have staff, and the upkeep of the building and the rent and such like. So primarily it's a business, and it has to be run as a business.
Are most charity shops there in conjunction with a charity? Like all of them? Is that it has to be that way? Or
it does, they have to be. They have to be run as a business, I mean,
so they pay taxes? Sorry.
Certainly, I think there's some concessions with regard to business rates and that kind of thing for charities, and possibly rent as well. But they're run as businesses, and quite rightly so, because people donate in good faith, don't they? If you say you have a parent who dies, and you donate their items to a cancer charity because you want to support that charity. That charity has a responsibility to sell those items for decent money, to fund research, which is the whole cycle. That's why people donate to charity. So they have a duty of care.
I'm glad they've had or they're becoming a bigger thing, because I remember, talking off camera, when I used to go around with my my grandma, she used to take me around these places, and at the time, if I told someone that I was wearing an item that was secondhand, they would laugh.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's like, why is that not brand new? Why are you not buying brand new?
Yeah.
In my head, I'm like, why on earth would I pay brand new
Good
prices
for you.
for
Good for you.
something that
yeah.
you're going to think exactly the same?
Absolutely.
I don't care.
Yeah.
You understand? I
Good
wash
for
it
you.
once
That
and then it's
must have
done.
taken great strength to
It
do
was, at
that,
the time it was,
especially as a boy, if you don't mind me saying, and a young boy as well, because
it was like
you
from
could
11
easily
onwards.
have got bullied for that, you know.
Oh, look at his size. It's not
Yeah.
easy to bully him.
I went through stages. I went through right up and down. We won't go. That's another podcast. No, but seriously, it's definitely one of those things now that I just laugh.
Did you laugh in your head when people were saying,
I've got
you know,
in the room next door, I've got a Burberry trench coat.
Yeah.
Second hand.
Yeah.
I paid £25 for it.
You always
pay
take it.
£400 £500 on the high street.
Is that
It's got a little rip in it.
such a good
Who cares?
feeling, isn't it? I
That's
love
great.
that. That's such a good feeling.
Not that I want people to think I'm, brand,
Yeah.
but I just like the quality,
Yes.
and I'm like, why
Yes.
not? I'm
Yeah.
gonna pay
Yeah.
full price.
And if you have a budget, everyone has a budget for clothing. If your budget for a new coat is £50, where can you find a new coat for £50? Or maybe Primark or somewhere
It's actually
like
made
that.
of a decent material.
Or you can
unless-
go to a charity shop and buy one for £20 and have £30 to spend on something else. So and have a much better quality one and support a charity. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
win-win.
It's a win-win,
It
yeah.
is win-win. Yeah.
You never know what they're going to leave, right? That's where the gems come in. So
yeah.
as far as your sort of background working in those shops, have you seen, I don't know, what sort of, is there a highlight of items or a item that you can remember coming in and you're just thinking, wow, this is quite
I can remember.
nice piece.
I can remember the day. It was a real game changer for me. Somebody very kindly, I don't know who it was, but somebody donated a Chanel suit
Wow.
to the charity. Cancer charities typically have really good donations. People are so generous. And it was a real one. I mean, I could tell by the stitching and the label. And my lovely elderly lady volunteers were pricing up this suitcase of things that came in. And I laugh about it now. This is 20 years ago. This lady put $4.99 on this Chanel suit.
No.
And luckily, I'm just seeing there's a lady going past with an Afghan coat on. Look at that. That's fantastic, isn't it? Oh.
You should see in London, huh?
Yeah, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real one as well. She put $4.99 on this Chanel suit. And I said, Doris, that's real Chanel. She said, oh, my dear, but it's very old fashioned.
They're all called Doris, the ladies working.
Oh, bless her. Anyway, I thought, I can't fight this. I can't fight this negligence that the charities had at the time. They weren't training. They weren't training their volunteer staff to look out for stuff. They do now because they've learned it's big business and they're wasting a lot of money. But at the time, it was the precursor to me starting my own business, because I thought, I'm just wasting my time and my effort. And it is a vocation, working for a charity. The pay's not brilliant, and you always do more hours than you're paid for. And I was happy to do that, but it got to the point where I thought I was up against a brick wall. I couldn't change it. My bosses didn't want to listen to me because they said they didn't want to fund the training. It was too expensive. And the turnover of volunteer staff was so huge anyway. It would have been a waste of resources. And I understood that.
With that many volunteers.
I
It's very
understand,
hard to keep them motivated if they're not seeing exactly how they think it should be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, but could be a department that does that. I mean, you could do all sort of things. And obviously, what you would do would cover easily that resources has been spent.
You'd think, wouldn't you? Yeah.
I mean,
they
Chanel, how much that was actually worth?
Well, I said you could probably put a couple of zeros on that.
Yes.
£4.50.
Oh, imagine that then.
Yeah, it's just a one-off. Isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm sure you get once in a while, especially.
But
in certain
also, I
areas.
was thinking, it shouldn't really have been sold in the shop. There must be another outlet for charities to sell. And auction is obviously one way now. Eubanks sell a lot of stuff for charities.
Is that the reason? So you're full-time there as well? Or
Yes.
part-time?
Yeah.
Wow.
As
well as doing the shop?
Well, I'm very lucky. I've got a shop manager, so and he's great. And I pop in on a Saturday to do the cleaning because he's not so good at that.
Okay.
But yes, so and Eubanks, and I think most of the auction houses will auction stuff for charities, and they don't charge. There's no fee for it, just to support the charities.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah,
Amazing.
That's really cool.
but there wasn't that outlet at the time, so that was my sort of nudge into maybe I should open my own shop and do this for myself. my mum sadly had recently died.
Sorry.
She left me a bit of money, not an awful lot, but she'd written a little note in with her papers in effect. So I was the executor of her will, and she said this should be enough for you to open your own shop, even if you only do it for a year and don't make any profit, just so you can say you've done it. Because we talked about doing that, maybe having a vintage stall or something.
Very cool.
So
you're still here today.
Well, yeah, this was 2005.
Yeah.
I had one rail of stuff that I bought from boot fairs and jumble sales. My dad came up with the name Foxtrot because he was a dancer.
Okay, I was thinking about why. Foxtrot is like a bold.
I wanted a catchy, Foxtrot. Yeah, he said, call it Foxtrot. He said, you're a foxy chick trotting out. So, all right, Dad. Yeah, thanks.
That's a good one.
So it started as a hobby business, and looking back, what I didn't know at the time was quite frightening, but every day's a school day when you run your own business. It's a huge learning curve.
Very tough. How did you source all the stuff then initially? What was your
Well, I had one rail of stuff, as I said, and one day a lady brought in a coat, and it was a beautiful designer coat, and I said, I can't afford to buy it. How much do you need for it? She said, I need to get £200 for it. She said, why don't you take it and sell it? You put what you want on it. Give me the 200 when you've sold it, and we'll go from there. I sold it the next day for 500. I'm thinking, why am I buying stock? I don't need to buy stock. I can sell it on commission. So I gave this lady her 200. She's fine with this. She likes to support a small business. I've got £300 to play with and not spend it on stock. So all my profit is not hanging on the rail. And so I started selling on a commission basis. And it was a bit like this sort of the next step up from the charity shop. So people were bringing things into me before they went to the charity shop for me to look through and value. So it was a bit like the Antiques Roadshow.
The appraisal before, find out what it's worth.
It was like that. So, and that's how it worked. And people are happy to help a small business. Some people said, give my share to charity, which helped me and a charity. And I had over the years, some amazing things come through the door that would have gone to charity, and Doris would have put £4.50 on them if they hadn't been to me first.
Amazing, huh? You had a good eye for it.
Yeah.
And obviously that led you to, now you're at the auction house.
Yeah.
I know you just did a recent Mary Curie.
I did, yes. Yeah, that was very close to my heart, that sale. Marie Curie, they're an end-of-life charity. It used to be cancer, but it's all end-of-life illnesses now they support. We were contacted by Jane Horrocks. Do you know Jane Horrocks?
No.
She was in Absolutely Fabulous. She was Bubbles in Ab Fab. You need to Google her. You'd know her. If you see her, you know her face. Anyway, she had some. She'd just moved house and she found some dresses that she didn't wear anymore. She was going to give them to charity, and then she thought, why don't I sell them for charity with my name attached to them? They might make more than they would do if they just went to the charity shop. And one of the dresses she'd worn in concert with Robbie Williams. So there's this connection there.
Yeah.
And she asked some of her celebrity friends, what do you think? And they said, oh, yes, I'll donate. And we found we had an auction. I think there were about 60 or 70 lots, not a huge amount, but they were all lots donated by celebrities. So we had Shirley Bassey donate. We had Joan Collins, Jane Horrocks, as I've said, Joanna Lumley. I can't. The list was amazing list, and some amazing items as well, and some just little things. We had Vic Reeves donated his glasses, so when they arrived, they came to me directly, and they were in a little package, and I knew there was something coming from Vic Reeves. And when I opened the parcel, had all fingerprints all over the glasses. I knew they were his straight away, just because of the fingerprints. It's just a bit grubby. Sorry, back to that. And they went for a huge amount because he's done a little drawing with them because he's quite an accomplished artist as well now. And it was a great day. It was a really great day. The auction was well attended on the day. It's filmed out and it went out globally. So a lot of the things went abroad to China and America and all sorts.
Wow.
And we raised £25,000 or nearly £25,000 for the charity. And these were things that people didn't wear anymore,
Yeah.
or they were going to give to charity anyway, but they certainly wouldn't have made that sort of money. So
Wow.
we were delighted because it's
Big
publicity
achievement.
for Eubanks, obviously.
Good exposure.
And Andrew Eubank, he waived all fees, buyer and seller fees.
Wow.
And it took me a long time. It was a lot of work for me and for no reward for Andrew, really, apart from the publicity. But
karma.
£25,000 for the charity. And they want to make it an annual thing.
That's
And
nice.
celebrities, being celebrities, want to be involved with all this, don't
For
they?
sure,
So,
yeah.
When word gets out, it's
Why
great.
not? Yeah.
Interesting what you said.
great, yeah.
And you,
So
so obviously
cool.
that's your actually putting a catalogue together for
Yes,
that.
yeah.
And obviously you're an auctioneer as well.
Yes.
One of the only female auctioneers
Yes.
in the UK.
Yeah.
Is that something that you did prior to Eubanks?
No.
Or no?
No,
Okay. They just threw you in at
terrifying,
the deep end.
absolutely
And then,
terrifying.
okay.
They didn't know I asked to be.
Oh, yeah? Nice.
So I joined Eubanks after COVID when things were a bit difficult in my business. I was thinking I'm going to have to get a proper job because COVID had just affected
Changed a lot,
everything.
yeah.
It just changed everything. And I was approached by a recruitment agency via LinkedIn. And this lady rang me and said, we're looking for somebody to head up the vintage fashion auctions at Eubanks. So I said,
Wow.
all right then, yeah. I thought it was a joke.
That's so
She said,
cool.
no, it's real. So
Yeah.
this woman rings me up out of the blue and offers me my dream job. You know, I'm like, yeah, right, you know.
Yeah, too good to
But
be
no,
true.
it was,
Wow.
yeah. So I went along for the interview. Again, as I say, Eubanks very forward thinking. They could see a gap in the market here. Popular culture, people are interested in vintage fashion as investment pieces and to buy things to wear. It was when Andrew's father was running the business. Sadly, he's no longer with us. But a very, very forward thinking and with no experience and no knowledge of auctions offered me the job. I think they'd had people in before just to do the odd sale, but they wanted somebody in full time to do it because they could see a gap in the market.
I was going to say, is it something that's, I don't know, time frame wise, do you feel like it's always been as popular to collect these one-of-one items from, you know, celebrities, from people that were in theatre, from movie sets, stuff like that? Has it always been
I think
the fashion side of things?
Yeah, I think in the background, yeah, there's always been collectors, but not nearly as many as there are now. I mean, it's
Yeah.
When do you think
social
that
media.
sort of came into, was that pre-COVID, or you think, because I think COVID's had a bit of an effect, hasn't it, as far as people being home?
Yeah, I guess it has. Yeah, I guess people were, you know, looking
They were bored,
online.
and
Yeah,
they wanted to start collecting
because
something
what do you
new.
do? Yeah, you're scrolling online. Yeah.
Yeah, but all this vintage wave, it's very much new, especially Gen Z, I think, generation. They always seem to wear vintage clothing.
It's cool, isn't it, to have your own style, and we're not governed by the fashion industry that tells us that we should be wearing jeans, denim. This season we should all be wearing
skinny
denim.
jeans.
Yeah.
I remember when I was young. That was the only thing you wear.
But jeans are jeans, aren't they?
Yeah.
But,
Can come in all sorts of
denim is
shapes.
very damaging to the environment. It's
Really?
cotton. Yeah, I mean, think of the land that it takes to grow the cotton, and then all the water, and then the dyeing process of the jeans, and also it's not. I can see you've got dark denim jeans on, but the fashion is who's got stone blast. You know, the sand washed and the stone
yeah.
blast.
Oh yeah, like Levi's.
Particularly in Bangladesh and places like that, in the sweatshops where people make these jeans and they're sandblasted, they're developing all sorts of lung cancers because of the sand that's used to sandblast the jeans for a fashion item. It's outrageous, isn't it? It's makes me want to weep thinking about it.
Because that's just driven by consumerism, right? That's just people want to buy sort of cheap jeans. They want to go into the store, buy something, every month, instead of buying something of quality that lasts for,
they're
say,
cheap
10,
to
15
cheap to make. Yeah, cheap to make because they're made mostly in Asia. For the fashion industry, it's the biggest profit margin. So that's why they keep pushing things like denim.
I'm a corduroy guy myself.
You're a corduroy guy.
Yeah,
Corduroy. You're kind of old-fashioned altogether, aren't you? You're an old
You have no
soul.
I'm
idea.
surprised I'm not wearing anything today. No, I could do a full corduroy
You've got
suit.
a 50s look about you. That what you're wearing, that button thing is 50s, preppy, 50s through and through.
Like
So
that,
yeah,
I do.
yeah.
He also dressed me up, to be honest.
Does he?
From time
Yeah.
to
Pretty sure
yeah.
you chose that. You chose that.
Yeah. Well, you're very sort of Chanel. Your style is, yeah.
No idea. It's whatever Jordan recommends me to wear.
Yeah.
I really have no sense of fashion.
I'm sure you do.
Everyone
Everyone does.
I'm okay, but I'm not really. Yeah. I'm fine with him choosing stuff.
What would you say is your, or do you think, is the most popular era of fashion at the moment? Is there something that's really in the limelight?
I think 80s is really coming to the front now. It's all nostalgia based, isn't it? So the generation that are buying mostly at vintage stores, I guess in Salisbury, certainly students, and they're thinking of the time when their parents were younger. So my generation, 80s fashion is really cool to them. So brands like Laura Ashley, late 70s, early 80s Laura Ashley dresses are suddenly rocketing in value. And
wow.
They're sort of prairie dresses, maxi, floor length, floral cotton dresses with lots of embroidery and cuffs this length and loads of buttons.
Lots of details.
Yeah, there was one of my auctions. I think I valued it at £60 to £80, and it went for nearly 500.
No, you're joking.
And Laura Ashley to me is it's high street, but that's to me because I'm quite old. But to everyone else, it's nostalgia.
It's incredible how certain brands go up, like a stock or
early 70s. Laura Ashley, that's a label to look out for. You didn't hear it from me. Keep that quiet. Yeah, don't tell anyone.
Do you think people are buying to wear though, or do you think it's a mixture of buying also just the store because they think it's a certain?
Possibly a bit of both. I think you should buy to wear as long as you look after things.
You could resell it.
Yeah,
if you
because
want to.
Clothes are meant to be worn. They're not meant to be trophies, are they? They're meant to be worn. So we should wear them. Absolutely.
Even the Marilyn Monroe stuff that you were auctioning the other day? I've recommend to wear it, or it's
I wouldn't, maybe not something of that sort of value. Yes. Yeah. So I'm talking about, I was telling you earlier about some costume jewelry that I'm doing evaluations for at the moment. There's a kind of a link between vintage fashion and fashion memorabilia. They're kind of knit together. Part of my remit is also doing costume jewelry, so this falls into my remit. I had a collector bring me a lifetime's collection of film memorabilia, and in amongst it, there's a bracelet and some earrings that belong to Marilyn Monroe with good provenance. And just to be able to, I did try this bracelet on very carefully.
Yeah, sure.
But just the weirdest feeling. I was sort of trying to
put yourself in her shoes, or just even just that era.
Yes, and such a privilege to be able to be involved in dealing with this kind of stuff. It's just, who'd have thought I'd have ended up doing this?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. Very cool. And do you think, where do you see, the market at the moment is very much grown, I think, in the last sort of 5-10 years. There's so many online stores now. So you've got Vinted, Depop, all these places that are big competition for the high street.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the high street's suffering a bit? And now, because obviously you can price check everything online now. If someone wants to buy a piece as a collectible, as an investment, they'll go online, they'll check it before they go and see it in person. So it's a very different world now, and it's compared to 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's a very different world, and it has affected the high street. It certainly has. But customers who come to my shop in Salisbury, they come in not looking for a particular piece. They come in just to search through,
to explore,
to try things on, to feel the fabric, to look at the pattern. You can't do that online. No. You can't have a chat with the shop owner and learn about the history of an item because the shop owner knows the lady that brought the item into the shop, and I've got a photograph of her wearing this dress in 1940. And here it is. And it's people love that connection. It's all about the ethos of the history of the item, and that we're just looking after things for our lifetime and then passing them on to the next generation. You can't get that online. It's not very satisfying, is it? I mean, just scrolling and looking at pictures and looking at
takes the eye
looking at a model wearing a dress, or just if it's just on a hanger, you can't tell what it's going to look like when it's on a person, and it's never going to look like it looks on you, like it looks on the model for whatever reason. So people like to come and try things on, and I say to people, if they're trying on a dress, I say, well, what shoe size are you? Try these shoes on that go with the dress, because they just transform the way that you walk. If you're trying on an evening gown, you need to wear a bit of a heel, and often they'll buy the shoes as well. You could call that an upsell, but they may not have looked at the shoes even, but
or they wouldn't even know that it fits together. You're a stylist, so you really understand. Okay, that's really cool.
Interesting. We have a lot of people on that say exactly the same thing. You hold it for a time because you are going to pass it on to someone. It's like with coins, with not necessarily whiskey, but coins, art, other collectible pieces. Because at the end of the day, it is history.
It is,
and I think everyone's becoming so fast paced now. Like the brands are driven by that fast paced environment instead of actually sitting a second, thinking back. Oh, why was this made at this era? There's so many connections, memories. Like I said, it's you just forget.
Everything's too quick, isn't it? Yeah, just slow down.
And you miss these gems. That's what I think we're talking about off camera with, going through these old, it could be a thrift store, it could be TK Maxx, it could be anywhere. Just taking your time, seeing what's out there, and you might find these gems because everyone thinks that era is gone now, that you can't find these gems anymore. But we hear it all the time.
It's not the
People
case
going into
now.
these stores and they paid £5 for something and it turns out to be this amazing piece. Do you remember anything that you've done or anything you bought super cheap, not thinking it's going to be worth much, and it's turned out to be?
Because I kind of know what I'm looking for, because I'm interested. I just kind of, my brain is like a sponge. I just remember when you're interested in something, it's easy to do, isn't it? Yeah. I do remember a lady coming into my shop with 2 bin liners of clothing, and it looked like she'd just emptied her laundry baskets into the bin liners, and she was on her way to the charity shop, and I wasn't feeling very well that day, and it was 5 o'clock, and I just wanted to go home, and the last thing I wanted to do was look through a load of dirty old washings. And I have to admit, I wasn't rude, but I was a little bit short with her because it was fun. And anyway, at the bottom of these bin liners, there were 2 Ozzie Clark dresses. So Ozzie Clark was a British designer in the 60s and 70s. Wow. Very famous, iconic designer. One of my favourites, actually. At the bottom of each bin liner, so there were 2, and I was just completely staggered. I'd never seen these designs before.
Wow.
We sold one to a collector in Sydney in Australia for £1,000 and one to a collector in New York for £1,000. I mean, the lady didn't know what they were. We split the profit. The lady didn't know what they were. She just had some old clothes in the loft and she was taking them to the charity shop. The charity shop wouldn't have known what they were.
They wouldn't.
So and that was Wow, so now, every time anyone comes in with a bin liner or anything else,
you're
I'm
checking.
Super polite.
Yes. So you still think there is still a chance that we go to certain charity shops, still finding crazy gems.
Yeah,
even today.
Every day I do. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
And it may not be an Ozzie Clark, but you might find an Hermes tie or a Liberty scarf or whatever. Yeah, every day.
I don't believe in London it's possible. I think everyone are well educated.
Possibly not in London, but maybe in the outskirts. The trick is to go to the areas where there's a lot of money or people with money. So
they just give things freely.
Yeah, they're very generous.
People who do that
generously donate to charity shops, and you can buy. And it may not be worth an awful lot, in money in terms of money, but it'll be a real gem for you because it fits nicely. And it's the right colour for you, and that's a bargain too, isn't it?
No, it's a very much of a hunt, to be honest. I think it's really fun to find.
I never get tired of that. I think the day that I wake up and think, "Oh God, not more clothes! I can't bear it."
Really?
That day is the day I need to stop doing this. But every day,
I'm jealous.
I'm dealing with clothes all day. I go home and I'm scrolling through eBay. This is my downtime, and I'm still looking at clothes. I
remember doing it all on eBay. Do you think it's something you're born with, or do you think it's something that you can? I feel like I've been like that from day dot.
Yeah, I can't remember a time. I can't remember a time I wasn't
busy
interested.
with 101 things. Yeah, but then I just find it interesting. I just pop into a charity shop. You never know what you're going to find.
I can't remember a time I wasn't interested in upcycling or mending or redesigning something because I couldn't buy it new or because I didn't have any money. So I had to make things. And that feeling that you get when you're wearing something. Look, for instance, I got these trainers on. These came from eBay. They're comfortable. They had horrible white laces in them. I took the laces out and put some velvet ones in. I've got a completely unique pair of shoes.
Yep. You're a visionary.
I don't know about that, just changing laces. But I've
something cool.
I've made them my own. So that's what I love doing. That's
cool.
My thing.
You think with, just touching on the sustainability thing, do you think that's going to help the market a lot moving forward? Do you think there actually is a lot being done? Obviously, on the outside, everyone says they're recycling and they're doing this, but actually are they? Do you think it is moving in the right direction?
I think people are more aware. I think, and I think people are certainly thinking about their footprint on the earth. So if we think of clothing as a bunch of molecules, that are just happen to be in clothing, and we have a responsibility to think about where these molecules will end up once we don't need this clothing anymore. I think if everyone sits down and thinks about that, then we just need to be a bit more conscious about, you know, how things are made and the resources that are used up making clothing. I read somewhere once that a single T-shirt uses 1,700 litres of water.
No.
To make one T-shirt, and there's children dying of thirst in the same continents. It's outrageous, isn't it? And then you think about the washing. That's just to make the T-shirt. So how many times do you wash a T-shirt in its lifetime? Say, I've got T-shirts I've had for 20 years. How many times have I washed them and all the water that's been used up? So we've got to think about all this stuff. We have a responsibility, and I think people are more aware. But we just need to educate people a bit more.
Yeah. Amazing. Really cool. I think it's interesting because I think at the moment now, because I think it's come out of that stage that it's not cool, and now it is kind of becoming cool.
Definitely.
Because that new generation sort of helped it. Yeah. As far as stuff that you're, you know, dealing with at the moment with the auction stuff, are you seeing, you know, what's the sort of, at the moment, is it unusual? I'll do that question again. I lost my train of thought. Go again. So like, new generation, obviously they're making it cool. You know, these, the thrift stores now that used to be the jumble sales. Yeah. Do you see, like where the market's going now, like in the next couple of years, do you think it's just going to become bigger and bigger? Yeah. Do you think it's going to, you know, size down a little bit because all these shops that are going to be suffering from more competition?
I think it's going to, the auction business is kind of, is separating out. So there's people who buy vintage clothing. By the way, vintage is just a catchword. It means pre-owned. Yeah, sure. I think it goes secondhand, retro, vintage. Vintage is maybe a bit older. It's a load of old nonsense. Vintage it just means secondhand, so it doesn't have to be of a certain age. So I think there's people who want to buy vintage clothing to wear it and love it, and because they've got an eye on the social responsibility. And then there's people who buy vintage as an investment, and I think that's where the auction houses are coming in. Particularly for me, I'm seeing a lot more in the way of designer handbags. People buying, it's a great investment. If you've got a little bit of money and you want to have something nice to wear and use when you're going out, as long as you look after it and you keep all the paperwork and the box and the tissue and everything.
Any brands in particular?
Well, Chanel. It's got to be Chanel up there, hasn't it? It's Hermes, wonderful Hermes handbag. I recently had an Hermes handbag in. It was a Birkin handbag. Lady, her husband had bought it for her, and she'd looked after it really well. She had used it, but it was always kept in the box. It had the packing in it. She'd kept all the receipts. So important to keep the receipt and all the original packaging. And she brought it in. I think I valued it at 6,000 to 8,000. It sold for 20,000.
Wow.
I don't know how much it cost. It was bought in the 80s, so it may have been about £4,000 or £5,000. That's a great investment, isn't it?
It is.
£20,000, and you know.
Wow.
It's a great investment.
Stuff like that, I guess it's a matter of knowing how to keep it in good condition. Right? Is there any tips you've got as far as keeping it out of a certain place in the house, you know, in front of sunlight?
Yeah, all those, all the obvious things like don't wear it in the rain, you know, don't keep it next to a radiator, all this kind of thing. But they're such good quality and they're nicely made. They don't need a lot of looking after. You certainly shouldn't be using a load of products on them and that kind of thing. But certainly if you've used them, give them a wipe over with a duster and then pack them carefully, put them back in their dust bag, put them in the box and make sure that the box doesn't get squashed because that's worth some money as well, even the box. So
amazing, look, all these things. You just don't think about it at the time, do you? You rip the box open because it's a present or whatever, but
look after everything, We've sold boxes at auction because somebody's got a designer bag that came without a box and they want a box for it because it adds to the value.
Fair enough.
So they'll buy the box. They sell for quite a lot as well.
So your bag I bought from
where's the box? Only thing I keep thinking
I got a box with it. It's a Burberry bag and it was on sale. And I remember it got sold. No, remember we saw it, you liked it?
Yeah.
I went back a month later and it had gone. I found it in America it was actually
Someone's, no?
Second-hand?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It was second-hand. It was
Okay.
perfect, like literally brand new.
Yeah,
like it was literally brand new. I got a great discount compared to what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just right timing.
Yes.
You know, you see it on another website, 50% off.
Yeah.
Great, take that.
Yeah.
But it was one of these second-hand stores or online stores that
In
was,
America.
like a refurbished
Yeah.
one. It's nice. It's a nice piece.
No, it's an amazing bag, yeah.
It's great fun, isn't it, as well? It's feel-good shopping, retail therapy.
Yeah, you feel like you got a deal.
Yeah, it's
So there's something
great.
about it.
Such a good feeling.
Nothing worse than overpaying for something.
It really,
Me too.
And
You
when
just
you're
go
wearing
shopping
it,
together.
Yeah, sure. Good fun. Amazing.
You should
Very
open your own vintage shop. You
Maybe
obviously got the eye for
slowly
it.
turning
got the
into it. I'm
ethos.
telling you. Sooner or later, I'll start putting stuff in here. Just,
Yeah, but you should have some handbags, certainly. Yeah.
we've thought about it.
It's great.
It's just trying to have get a good supplier.
Well,
someone that's
funny you should mention that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about the right
No,
person.
for Christmas time, it's actually great. Now it's a great time to
Really
have
is.
something.
Yeah, really
Yeah.
is. Yeah, we have the high-end handbags in our actually in this year in the jewelry sale. It was jewelry and luxury goods. So yeah, a few handbags in there.
Oh.
Interestingly, a couple of weeks ago, a lady brought me in a fairly modern Chanel handbag, and it didn't have. I think. Do you know they come with a little? The Chanel handbags come with like an ID card that's got the number on it.
I've heard, yeah.
So it's got the number is actually on the handbag and then it's on the card. So
Just for
this
verification. Yeah.
they don't do that anymore, and it doesn't.
Oh.
It didn't come with the card. So my first thought is it hasn't got a card. It could be a fake. So, and then of course I realise it's got this microchip.
Oh.
They're microchipped now.
Better.
Modern handbags are microchipped. So
Okay, that's cool.
it can be traced to where it was made, the year it was made, probably the person that made it, just from this microchip.
Wow.
It's going to revolutionise.
Yeah.
When was that changed
luxury.
over then? Because I do remember hearing
It's
about
fairly
that.
recently. It was within the last couple of years. Well, this bag is 2020, so it must be within the last 4 years. But it's the first one that I've seen coming into auction that's got the microchip on it.
Wow. So handbags.
Because I'm thinking
Yeah, they're
about
bigger.
all my buyers will be saying, "Oh, but where's a card? It hasn't got a card. It must be fake." I'm thinking, nope, it's got a microchip. It's definitely real. Definitely.
Wow.
Good thing to look out for. And I guess, do you feel like you've, as far as, you've gone around these stores for years and years and years, is it a matter of just trial and error for people who wanted to get into this and trying to look for stuff? Or is it a matter of there's places, resources to go and look at?
I think
you
you have to have a real passion for it. It's no good just thinking you quite fancy doing it because you're going to make a quick turnover because it's not very glamorous. I mean, there's an awful lot of dirty old stuff that you sort through. I don't mind. I can wear gloves, I can wash my hands. You search through loads and loads of dirty old stuff and find one gem, and that might be dirty as well, but you can wash it, can't you? So
True.
you have to have that passion. You have to be a real hunter gatherer. Yeah.
Go back to the
for whatever reason you have
nature,
for whatever reason you have that passion, but it's got to be something that you just do 24/7. You can't just switch it on and off. It's got to be a passion. That's the first thing. And then, but there's the competition, as you say, the online competition is massive. So I don't think you're going to make any money buying something on eBay and then trying to sell it on vintage. No, it's just not going to happen.
No.
So I think if you want to use vintage clothing as an investment, then maybe do a lot of research, see if you can find a reasonably priced vintage Chanel handbag or a vintage Hermes handbag, and start off buying and selling them and making a little bit of profit, and then building up and saving up. That's a good way to start.
Mm-hmm. Always remember, because it used to be like hand-me-downs from my cousins and stuff.
Yeah.
I used to stick it on eBay,
Yeah.
£20, and it just
Did
incrementally.
Did you cut your cousins in? No, you just.
They gave it to me freely. I wore it for a bit, and then I, moved it on.
I think you
But
have
it's a great way of-
entrepreneurial spirit. You do.
It's a great way of retaining the money, because
Yes.
obviously, there's no other way. Otherwise, you just throw the clothes away, right? But if I want to buy another T-shirt, I'll just sell these two. I'll get another one.
Yeah.
There. So
That's
It's
great,
such a good
yeah.
feeling as well, isn't it? Yeah.
I think it's also better for
It's
the conscience.
It's sustaining. Yes.
Yeah, it's hard to know that you paid something, you bought something expensive and then you just throw it because
It's
you don't
like
want
buying
to.
a new car from a showroom, isn't it? You drive it off the forecourt and it's lost 5 grand,
10-15%,
whatever.
easily.
Yeah, straight away. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what happens when you buy new clothing. It's just half the value, if that. So.
Yeah. That's fine, but I think it's nice when you're able to sell it. When someone else is using it, you just throw it.
Pass it on.
Yeah.
pass on the love.
I think this is nice.
I have lots of people who bring things to my shop and they're not concerned about making any money. They just have a favourite dress, maybe it was their wedding dress or whatever, and they just want to pass it on to somebody else who will love it. That's such a nice feeling, isn't it, to be able to do that?
For sure,
That's really cool. Interesting, actually, the idea of just giving it freely and just not thinking about the long
People
term.
are so generous. They really are, you know. I mean, times are hard, you know, when you're in retail, which is why I work full-time elsewhere and run a business. But I don't think it's sustainable really doing just the business, not at the moment anyway. Really? But people are really happy, especially in the community. I'm quite well known where I live in Salisbury. People know me, so they come to me and they're happy to donate things, you know, give a percentage to charity if you sell it, or if you can't sell it, give the item to charities. And people are they have a lot more conscience.
Yeah.
That's nice. It's good to hear.
It is, yeah.
Amazing. Very cool.
Hopeful.
Talk about a little bit about your collaborations with film of period, and maybe link a little bit with double memorabilia.
Yep.
Yeah, film and period. Yeah.
Cool. She's done a lot of work with Downton Abbey.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Amazing.
I would say yeah.
Nice.
Every now and then.
Sam is great.
So, we'll touch on obviously your background a little bit about specifically with film and memorabilia.
Yes,
that whole world.
Yeah.
Is that something you just sort of jumped straight into, or that was a slow?
Again, that was a slow process. I think because of what I do, because I'm selling one-off pieces. I've only got one of everything. People come in and say, "Have you got this in a size 10?" I've just got the one. But so I have a lot of scouts who the fashion scouts, wardrobe scouts from film and theatre companies who come in and they're looking for instance, we did some Downton Abbey furs. And there were scouts who were looking for the furs. Furs quite controversial, but when you're making a period drama, they had to use real pieces, and I happened to have some. So that was one of my involvements was with Downton Abbey, and also Mr. Selfridge. Again, shoes and handbags for Mr. Selfridge we did. A few Doctor Who pieces.
Wow, what type of pieces?
British uniforms. Yeah, British Army uniforms.
Wow.
Yeah. But the biggest one was Anna Chancellor came into my shop one day. She was Duckface in 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Yeah. I know.
She said everyone knows her as Duckface. Yeah. She's got an aunt who lives in Salisbury, and they were mooching around the shop, and she said, "Oh my God," she said, I'm in a film at the moment and the wardrobe people have got it completely wrong and you've got all this stuff, and can I send my wardrobe people down to see you?
What a chance of that?
I saw her, I thought, I know you, but you know when you see someone famous and you think, I know that person, but you can't because you're seeing them out of context. And then I thought, it's Duckface. Can't call her Duckface. But she said, yes, I am Duckface. Anyway, she sent the wardrobe people down, and it turned out it was a Danny Boyle production for Fox TV, and it was called Trust. And it was about the John Paul Getty kidnapping in the early 70s. And you're all too young to remember this, but I remember. It was a billionaire's grandson, long story short, who was kidnapped. And the ransom, the kidnappers cut off his ear and posted it to the grandfather, who refused to pay the ransom. Anyway, they made a film of this. There's been several films over the years, but this one was called Trust. And it was Hilary Swank and Donald Sutherland. So all of a sudden, from my little shop in Salisbury and the one I had in Marlborough at the time, with my one rail of stuff, I'm supplying costumes for a Danny Boyle film and they picked out a Christian Dior suit, a 60s Christian Dior suit. So I'm dressing Hilary Swank in Christian Dior for a Danny Boyle film. It was and they spent a lot of money. The wardrobe people. Nothing had prices on it in the warehouse that I had at the time. It was just period costume, and it wasn't priced because it was. A lot of people just come to have a look, and the wardrobe guys they said we'll have that and we'll have that, and they had a big pile of stuff.
Wow.
And they went off to the local pub to have some lunch, and I said, well, I'll pack it all up and I'll sort out the price for you. And I looked at this and it came to whatever, And I'm thinking, now this is a film about billionaires that Danny Boyle is producing. So I doubled the figure in my head. Just they didn't even bat an eyeyelid. They just handed over the credit card.
For sure.
And I rang my best friend. I said, "What you doing?" She said, "Nothing." I said, "Come down. We're going to the pub. We're having champagne. I've just sold a load of stuff to Danny Boyle."
Oh,
wow.
what a
So
day.
that was a great day.
That was a big win.
That was a really good day.
Amazing.
And then seeing Hilary Swank wearing this outfit, and she looked amazing in it.
Wow.
And it was tiny as well. So yeah, it looked amazing. And I was,
That's amazing.
Very cool.
It's really
fancy getting paid to do something that I love. That's just everyone's
it pays off,
dream,
doesn't it,
isn't
with
it?
persistence, and you're good at it, but at the same time you took a risk. It's a big risk.
Yeah,
What you did, you went out on a limb.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe
it's hard work, but
maybe
it's also
maybe it was a
fortunate.
bit foolish, and sometimes I think that when I have dot days in the shop when nobody comes in and it's raining like this, and I'm thinking, what on earth have I done? But then I just think back to the Hilary Swank day, and it's it's all good.
Good memories.
Yeah.
Amazing. Very cool.
Incredible.
And you bought a few props for us today.
I did, yeah.
These are from your store, or these are going to
well,
auction?
they were in my store. This is in my sitting room at the moment. I've got actually with the other one. This is a 1970s glam rock. This is a man's boot. It's a size 8. Would it fit you?
Size 8?
I'll give it a go. It's like Cinderella, isn't it?
So, yeah,
With a-
beautiful.
with a big heel.
Yeah, I
It's
found
enough.
different sizes.
A customer brought me this, and they were in pretty poor condition because I think the rock and roll guy that owned them had partied really hard in them, and they were quite worn down at the heel, so he'd been doing a lot of dancing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had them refurbed, but they are just fab. They're just a joy to look at, aren't they?
Very
Can
cool.
you imagine the fun that the fun that the guy that owned those must have had?
Yeah.
Back in the day.
It's incredible
Amazing
how that
quality
was in
that
Yeah,
fashion,
super quality.
though,
yeah.
for men. And how today we are so progressive, but men would never wear it.
No, I think there's some people that would. You never know.
Yeah.
I think
So we sold
So cool.
some shoes like these recently in one of my fashion auctions. I think they went for £200.
Okay.
Wow.
So yeah, good investment if you can
It's a
find
nice entry point, though.
few and
Because a
far
lot of these
between.
collectible bits, they're super high entry point, but that's nice.
Yeah, few and
Good
far
for input.
between now. But if you can still find this sort of thing. Maybe not this sort of high end style, but certainly you can find 70s platform boots and shoes, and they sell well at auction because it's all about the nostalgia.
Yep.
As well.
And who danced with them?
And continuing with the Stars and Stripes theme, which is one of my favourites, I've got this. This is an opera hat, and this belonged to Anita Harris, who was a very famous British actress in the 70s and 80s. And I've got the jacket and the waistcoat that she wore with this. I think she wore it on the Morecambe and Wise show. You don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I know
but
Morecambe and Wise. I know
They do,
Morecambe and Wise, yeah,
because
from
you're an
my
old
parents.
soul,
Yeah,
aren't you?
yeah.
Yeah, but everyone, people out there will know. But
She's ruining me.
anyway, here we go. Look at that.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's just so cool, isn't it? So she would have done a dance routine with a cane, and she would have
Amazing.
popped the hat out and done all
Nice.
this. And then when you're finished with it, it just squashes down and you can put it under your seat. I thought this was a great thing to bring along today because I could put it in my bag and bring it on the underground.
Really cool.
Or I could have just worn it, couldn't I?
Yeah.
You could have
It's
worn
fine
it.
in London.
Yeah. Yeah, no one will look at you any
Maybe not with
differently.
Donald Trump being it. Maybe it's
Yeah.
bit political at the moment,
Yeah.
isn't it? But it's
Very, but yeah.
nice. All good.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, though, for coming on.
You're
And
welcome.
it's,
My pleasure. I
Really
can
insightful.
sit and talk about what I love. Yeah,
For
what
sure.
could be better?
Amazing. I'm sure we'll definitely connect again.
Thank
and
you.
It's
Yeah.
been really insightful.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks, Leora.
Thank you,
Really
Jordan.
fun. See us next week. That was a really good podcast with Elena. We obviously want to make sure that you keep up to date with what we're doing. So like and subscribe. Get in touch as well if you've got any questions for our next guests. And yeah, see you soon. Thanks so much.